Beer is as old as human civilization, and it's evolved with our tastes and our technologies. If we could travel back in time to taste the beer from 1,000 years ago, we would find it's very different from the beverage we enjoy today. One big reason for that is just a tiny tweak in the recipe. If you were to ask a modern-day brewing enthusiast what ingredients are needed to make beer, they would tell you malt, water, yeast, and hops. But if you were to ask a brewer from 1,000 years ago what ingredients are needed to make beer, they would tell you malt, water, yeast, and gruit. Hops are the little green flowering part of the hop plant that shape resembles that of a pine cone, and they contribute a lot of bitterness and flavor to different beer styles. IPA lovers, I'm looking at you. If you've never heard of gruit before, that's because no one really uses it anymore. Nearly everyone has switched over to the use of hops, with the exception of just a few craft brewers who are still making gruit ale. Before hops, people would use different herb mixtures, which we now refer to as gruit, to add bitterness and flavor to their beer. The gruit mixture often included botanicals that we're familiar with, such as rosemary and juniper, but it also included some other ingredients that we either don't know or don't have access to today. Starting in the 10th century, we see evidence of a pattern cropping up throughout part of Europe. The local authority, whether it was the state or the church or some combination of the two, would monopolize the sale of gruit and also require brewers to purchase it directly from them. This compulsory sale served as an early form of taxation on brewers. This gruit tax didn't spread everywhere, but it did affect cultures with prolific brewing traditions such as modern-day the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. This shift from gruit to hops was thanks in large part to a nun. That's right, kiddos. Historically, nuns have been drinking beer for centuries. Hildegard von Bingen was a nun born in the late 11th century in what is modern-day Germany, and was only recently canonized as a saint in the Catholic Church in the year 2012. The stories of the lives of saints are often greatly exaggerated to the point of fairy tale, and for an example of that, check out my video about the legend of Saint Bridget, but the life of Hildegard was really well documented thanks in large part to her own writings. She has many accomplishments under her habit, such as being a composer and a philosopher, but today I want to focus on her contributions to beer. As an abbess, Hildegard was in charge of running the abbey with all of the nuns in it, and she would encourage her nuns to drink beer. She was a fan of the beverage. She liked the way that it made the nuns' cheeks rosy. So who was the first person to add hops to beer? I don't know. That's still a conundrum. A conundrum! Okay, it may or may not have been Hildegard, as she never makes the claim that she's the first person to incorporate hops into beer, but she was known to have a fondness for foods that tasted bitter, so it is entirely possible that she got the idea first. Anyway, Hildegard was the first person to document using hops to brew beer. In one of her many books, Physica Sacra, she wrote about the preservative properties that hops add to beer. And that is an area where hops are superior to gruit. They act as a natural preservative. Gruit does not. In addition to that, hops are a little bit easier to use because they also come from just one source, just a single plant, whereas gruit comes from several different plants that you need to mix together and may have to pay an expensive tax on. Okay, I'm actually sweating buckets of holy water in this costume, so I'm just gonna much better. The use of hops in beer began gradually spreading throughout Europe, and by the 14th century almost completely replaced gruit. And since then, hops have not declined in their popularity. Or should I say hopularity? With our advancements in farming and in agricultural understanding, we have new varieties of hops coming out all the time. So we have new flavors to experiment and brew and enjoy. So cheers to that, and cheers to Saint Hildegard. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean a great deal to me if you shared it. I love watching this channel grow, and I love seeing you guys share my videos with people who haven't seen them before. It's such a compliment to me, and it lets me know that you're enjoying the content I'm putting out. Other than that, if you have any beer-related questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check out my Instagram for more beer-related content and other fun stuff. And I think that about wraps it up, so I'll see you guys next week with another video. Cheers!